Hey everybody, Happy New Year! Dylan Bowman here from Freetrail, and in the first 10 days of 2024, we're going to be rolling out our Trail Runner of the Year award. This is our favorite time of year to celebrate all the great athletes and performances that made 2023 a year to remember in trail running, and this year we're super happy to have partnered with Ketone IQ to help bring the award to life. Make sure you check this product out, super cutting edge, futuristic endurance sport nutrition product, ketone supplement guaranteed to give you better focus and help you rip out on the trails. We have exclusive discount code that you can take advantage of here, hvmn.com/freetrail30. That link is also in the description here on YouTube. Enjoy these interviews with some of the best athletes in the world, and thanks for helping us celebrate 2023.
Tom Evans, congratulations. Welcome back to the show, our number 4 trail runner of the year. Good to see you, buddy.
Debo, lovely to see you as always. I hope you had a very nice Christmas, and thanks for having me back.
This is our third time talking in the last 12 months or so in a recorded context. The first 2 are some of the best interviews of the year, at least the most memorable for me as somebody who conducts, probably 100 plus of these a year. So to our listening audience, this will be a short one with Tom, if we can manage that, the 2 of us here together. Yeah. And I would highly encourage you to go back and listen to the one we did after Black Canyon, the one we did before UTMB. Tom, you're back home in the UK. How are things as we close another amazing year of trail racing?
Yeah, I think my year started really well, and my A race and my sort of crescendo moment for the year was Western States, and everything after that was always going to be a bonus. And it's very easy to sort of kind of look back on the last sort of 2 opportunities that I tried to race at UTMB, and I had COVID and there's nothing you can do about it. And then I ended up not racing Cape Town. So yeah, I put a lot of eggs into those baskets as well and put lots of energy into that. So it's very easy to look back and say, oh, I'm a little bit not disappointed, but I could be more happy. But then every year at this time of the year, I write on a notebook, on a piece of paper, my goals for the year. And I then put it in an envelope and I put it in a drawer, and then I reopen it around 12 months later. And everything that I wanted to achieve in the last 12 months, I've achieved. And that was winning Western States to finding more time to spend with my friends outside of the sport. So yeah, I've had a great year. I achieved what I wanted to achieve this year. And I'm really happy. So yeah, what more could you want?
Yeah. So maybe let's go backwards and stick with sort of the disappointment before we talk about the amazing highlights of your season. You just mentioned UTMB DNF, Ultra-Trail Cape Town, obviously another unfortunate situation there. How do you internalize those experiences and channel them for 2024? And if there's anything you can reveal about what you're writing on that piece of paper, I'm sure people would love to hear.
Well, it's currently blank. They're on the other side of the notes from my last psychology session. So
yeah,
we'll keep those hidden, otherwise everyone will realize that I'm completely mental and crazy. Yeah. So yeah, I guess sort of you use the old phrase, like, in order to really succeed, like, you've got to fail first, or maybe not even failure, but you've got to learn. And I look at other performances this year, like the obvious one would be Jim at UTMB. Mm-hmm. Had you asked, would Jim be the athlete he is now had he won UTMB on his first attempt, or had he won Western States on his first attempt? And it makes you hungry. As long as you learn, as long as you don't sort of throw your toys out the pram and just blame it on everything else, like, you've got to, ultimately you're the one who's got to be responsible. So if you can look at yourself in the mirror and sort of answer that question of what would I do differently next time? And geez, I have a list as long as my arm of changes that will implement both in training and in sort of my performance environment before UTMB. it will change a lot. And like one thing I did loads of media in the week leading up to UTMB this year. I won't be doing that next year.
Except for free trail.
Yeah, I will do a maximum of one thing a day in the sort of day 4, 5, and 6 leading up to the race, but 3 days before I won't be doing anything. And I will be looking up, rather than saying yes to everything, which I love doing, I would much rather be doing lots of interviews post UTMB rather than pre UTMB.
And who did that this year? A certain champion.
Precisely.
Yep.
And yeah, so what do they say? Like, copying, imitation is the best form of a compliment. So yeah, I see what Jim has done. Geez, I went to Flagstaff this year to train for Western States, and there's a few reasons why I did. One of them is because that's where a lot of the champions of the race train. Do you have to do it? No. So yeah, I think for me, I've learned a lot from sort of the whole UTMB side. Like, I've now done the race. I've raced at the UTMB event 4 times now, a third, a first, a third, and a DNF. It's still, in my opinion, that DNF is probably the one that means the most. And it's the one that I have learned the most from and will be a better athlete afterwards. If you kept winning everything, like, had this year gone incredibly and I'd won Western States and then into UTMB, not being at my very best, it would have been amazing, and it would have been great chatting here about how great I am.
Yeah.
But the sport has moved on so much, and now in these big races, you have to bring 100%, because if you're not at 100%, if you're at 95%, you're going to get found out. And yeah, it happens every year. And there's no, you've got to swing the bat in order to try and hit it. And sometimes it doesn't work. And actually, it doesn't work significantly more than it works. And I think I've been pretty, I say lucky, probably not lucky, but I've got a pretty good track record so far racing. But sometimes you've got to shoot for the moon, and sometimes you're gonna come crashing back down to earth. But yeah, it makes it.
I think UTMB was always a roll of the dice for you coming off that Western States victory. But this is why I love talking to you, Tom, knowing that you do have 3 podiums during UTMB week, 2 at CCC, 1 at UTMB, and it's that DNF. The one where you will internalize the most and where you will learn the most.
Yeah. And I think
with you
a saying that I think I've used on your podcast before is, don't let the wins go to your head or the losses go to your heart. And I think it's like, it's happened, brilliant. Won Western States, amazing. Cool. It's then draw a line under it. Great. Done. Enjoy it. But it's now, don't let it go to your head and have a huge ego. And then with the losses, like, everyone loses. You can't win everything. That is the great thing about this sport.
Yeah.
You could be the best on paper going into the race, and there's still no guarantee. And for me, that's what keeps me coming back year on year, wanting to race against the very best, because it's just the most incredible sport.
Yeah. So speaking of the wins and not letting them go to your head, you did win the Western States 100. We've only been talking about the disappointments and the learnings from those disappointments. But dude, you did it. You won, and one of the very few Europeans, the non-North American athlete to win on American soil at this very American race. Where is your Cougar trophy at the moment? And what does it feel like to have written that goal down and put it in a drawer and to actually accomplish something like that in your career?
So the Cougar is currently on the windowsill at the top of our stairs. So I see it 4 or 5 times a day. Sometimes I paid attention. Sometimes I don't at all. And you sort of just forget that it's there. My belt buckle, I've got absolutely no idea where it is. Somewhere. Actually, the finish line tape is in here, just folded up. I found a really cool company that will make it into like a a teddy bear. Because what am I going to do with the finish line?
Yep.
So yeah, so that's it then. Yeah, what does it mean? Like, I think I put all my eggs into racing in North America this year, or the first half of 2023. And yeah, I put so much time and effort into it and training in the US, and yeah, fully bought into, became a North American for all intents and purposes. Lived in Flagstaff for almost 4 months this year. I went to a rodeo with Molly Siddell and Matt. I own cowboy boots. Yeah, I did a photo shoot in Boot Barn. There definitely aren't many Europeans who are doing that. So yeah, I just fully bought into the race, and yeah, it was incredibly special. And yeah, to be able to come away with a win in a race that everything just clicks and you can just enjoy it. You know that with 15 miles to go, you feel great. Just steady Eddie it, keep going, one foot in front of the other. I was with Josh at this point. Yeah, it was just absolutely class. Sort of by far my favorite race experience. And yeah, to be able to do it on the biggest stage at one of, if not the biggest 100-mile race in North America and in the world. Yeah, makes it incredibly special because you never know when your last win is going to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just,
God, it was such textbook Tom Evans stuff too. I'm just like jogging my own memory. You and Dakota Jones coming into Forest Hill together, absolutely dueling it out through the canyons, and then you pulling away with your quintessential perfect execution to bring home that beloved Cougar trophy. I'm glad that it's not like stuffed in a box in there. I wondered if that was the case with you, Tom.
it was for a while. But I think with stuff like this, like, you've got to be proud with these things. Like, I invest so much into this that I want it to be out. I want to be able to see it and to celebrate it. And do I want my house to become a shrine of mine and my wife Sophie's achievements? No. But
There would be no room in your house if that was the case.
yeah, exactly. We'll have to upgrade. But yeah, I think it's really important to take that time. And will it be out forever? Probably not.
Yeah.
It will probably migrate into a different room at some point. But yeah, it was incredibly special. I think what makes that race, everything's so close. Sort of there are no barriers up.
Yeah.
Like, you compare it to other races where it's very, okay, you're allowed to stand here, you're allowed to stand here. This is how it is. There are lots of almost of lines in the road. Whereas at Western States, it's just so close, and you really do feel that community. And I think it means more to the athletes and the community than any other race in the world does, that I've been to anyway. And I think that's the really special thing about racing in North America.
So
I just need to figure out how to get into some other races in North America.
speaking of which, you have declined the M1 bib to return after 2 podium performances at Western States. As somebody whose mindset is so fascinating, especially to me, I'd love to hear you just sort of talk about that decision, and if there's anything you want to reveal at this point and feel no pressure to reveal what those goals are for 2024. I'm sure people would love to hear.
Yeah, I think 2024 for me is going to be a little bit of a different year. My wife is a professional triathlete and hoping to qualify for the Paris Olympics, and her selection event is in the second half of May. So I don't really want to be going away too much before then. So that kind of discounts Tom Evans textbook Western States build up. And with these races, I want to do them properly. And if I can't do these things properly, I don't deserve to be on the start line. The race and my competitors deserve me to put 100% effort in, and it would be unfair on them. It'd be unfair on me and the sport. They want to see great racing. And if I'm not able to give my best or a good version of myself, a good account of myself, especially a race like Western States where you're wearing M1 bib, I wouldn't have put the yes, I would have put the effort in because I care about the race, but I would have done myself a disservice, if I'm being completely honest. So yeah, I will race in Europe, a European focus for next year. I'm racing lots of shorter, faster stuff at the moment, and doing way more cross training. So I'm actually doing racing the sort of British cross country at the moment up to 10K, and hoping to qualify for the cross country world championships over 10K. And then doing a couple of gravel bike races, hoping to qualify for the gravel bike world championships. Yeah, I guess as a European or as somebody who lives in the UK where we don't have mountains and snow, cross training is such a huge thing, and it's such a huge element to allow your body to properly recover so you can go into next year. So am I running? Yes, I'm still running 100 miles a week, but I'm cross training almost, and time wise, almost double that in a week.
Wow.
At the moment. And it's great. Like my body feels like, don't get me wrong, my running performances aren't quite as good. And if you said tomorrow, I'll go run 8 hours, I'd really struggle. But go on the track and run 12 by a kilometer or 12 by 4 laps, you're ticking them off pretty nicely at the moment, which is great. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying it at the moment. So yeah, I'm going to open the year on the trails in Transvulcania, which, yeah, combining that sort of my transitional period from fast cross country to more climbing focus. And then it's actually a very, very similar periodization to what I had post my injury. So in the 2022 season, starting shorter and getting longer because it worked then. Don't try and reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Yes, we've learned a lot. Me and my coach, Scott Johnson, have learned a lot on the way. So yeah, we shall see. And I can't confirm 100% anything yet, but would be 99% sure I'll race a 100-miler in Europe at the end of August, beginning of September. With a couple of races before that. And then after that, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, Tom, I'm going to resist the temptation to ask a million more questions because this is meant to be a short one, but I always enjoy talking to you. I have one final prompt that I'm giving to all the great athletes who landed in our top 10 this year, and that is just asking you to provide kudos to an individual on your team who exists behind the scenes, who doesn't get enough credit for how they contribute to your success.
I would have to. Oh, it's a very good question. I'd say two people who they're the standard people, coach, Soph, my wife, but she gets a lot of credit, both in front and behind the camera. Firstly, to one of our dogs, who he probably runs somewhere between 60 and 70 miles a week, and absolutely loves it, and is the reason why on miserable, cold, wet, rainy, muddy days here that I get out the door. So he's called Rocco, and he's great. And then secondly, we've spoken about a lot is, for me, psychology is such a huge thing. And certainly without delving in too deeply, sort of post Cape Town, that's definitely opened it's opened a box that I had planted deep in my mind from, time in the military and other times around that. So yeah, I have been working far deeper, with both my normal sports psychologist, but also a trauma psychologist as well, which has been really, really interesting. And yeah, not, I guess, on the sort of more trauma side, it's sort of not having any limitations. And then on the sports side, I guess it's similar to the stuff that we've been doing, but really trying to push it on. And I've definitely proven myself to be one of the best, but I guess like a lot of people have very much still got sort of that imposter syndrome that I don't belong
Mm.
on the podium of these races, but you end up on the podium. And no matter how many podiums I keep getting on, I still face the same challenges. So yeah, sports psych as well. And yeah, they would be my two.
Awesome, man. And what a perfect answer. Both the levity of recognizing your dog who shares some miles with you, and then the very practical and Tom Evans answer of the person or the people who help unlock the gifts that you contain in the psychological department. Tom, congratulations on a fantastic 2023. Look forward to reconnecting with you in 2024.
Look forward to hopefully have a meeting at this time next year, but maybe a day or so later.
Yes, sir. Toni McCann, so nice to meet you. Congratulations on being number 4 Trail Runner of the Year.
Thank you. So good to meet you as well. Wow, pretty crazy.
Yeah, I've become a big fan of yours this year. You had an incredible season, which we'll talk all about here. I wanted to start though with your South African heritage. You, I think, live in Cape Town. You're the only South African in the top 10 here in Trail Run of the Year. So maybe first, just reflect on the South African trail running community for those listeners who've never experienced it themselves.
Oh man, it's truly special. I think everyone who came to Cape Town now for Ultra-Trail Cape Town in November really got to experience the best of it. You know, everyone comes together. Everyone's so stoked there. It's a true community, like the biggest frothers ever. Like if you're an international and you come to Cape Town, guaranteed you'll have like 5 to 6 people asking you every single day to go run with them. And it's just like, that's just how it is. People are always keen to share a run and then a beer and a pizza. And it's a great community.
Yeah, and it was on full display, as you just suggested, during Ultra Trail Cape Town. This episode won't come out until early January, but for those who are listening, it's a good race to put on your bucket list for 2024 or beyond, in a race where you had another victory, but we'll get to that in a second. Before we get to some of the highs of the season, I was texting with our mutual friend and your teammate, Corinne Malcolm, and she mentioned some of the adversity that you had gone through in the early season. So maybe tell the listeners a little bit about that. I think it had something to do with injury and then a bike accident, because I think this will ultimately make the successes, feel a little bit more significant. Yeah,
man. Bicycles are not for me. I've discovered that many times, but again, reinforced this year. But in May after Transvulcania, I came out with a bit of a tendinopathy in my psoas. And because I, like every athlete, I think has to learn the hard way, I ran through it and hoped that the pain would kind of just get better. It didn't. And I ended up with a bone edema in my femur. So I needed to full rest. So I hopped on the bike and was really enjoying that. Where I live, I'm just outside of the Chamonix Valley. So we've got the most beautiful places to cycle. I was happily doing that, and then went to support at the World Trail Champs in Innsbruck and had a crash on my bike, broke my collarbone again, broke some ribs. And after that I spent a couple weeks, 2 months almost, on the indoor trainer in my little cave. That was that year. It's been a bit crazy.
What an interesting story. And especially now knowing what happened at the end of the summer and then now at the end of the year with 2 incredible victories. Is there any lessons that stick out to you from dealing with that injury? And are there any specific sessions that you did on the indoor trainer that everybody needs to adopt, especially here in the winter months in the Northern Hemisphere?
I guess so many lessons, actually. I think it's always good to experience this kind of year where it is just a big learning year. One, respect that life stress has a big impact on you, and like you can't discount that. It needs to be accounted for in your training. Cross training is amazing. as I've learned. So I'm definitely going to be incorporating a lot more cross training in. There's only so much running I can handle, and the cycling has shown to be very beneficial. You can do so many threshold workouts on that, and it's hard and it's tiring, but it's really good. And yeah, just actually really planning recovery. I think, especially with the distance I do, people expect you to be able to bounce back super quickly, and I'm not that person. So yeah, I really have focused on recovery, and after every race I did this season, I did at least 2 weeks of very little anything structured. Yeah, I only raced a couple times this year, and I think that was part of the success.
Yeah, awesome. So obviously the major highlight of your season was your win at OCC, the UTMB World Final for 50K, one of the most competitive races in the world. You had been 5th at OCC in 2022, and I think 14th in 2021. So maybe reflect on that 3-year journey with OCC and how it culminated with your huge win this year.
Yeah, wow. As runners, I think we always want to show up on the biggest stage, and OCC for me in my distance is the biggest stage currently. And the first year I ran it, I had no idea what I was getting into. Second year I ran it, still was, had learned a lot and implemented a lot of good changes. But yeah, I think every time you do a race and you do a distance, you learn new lessons. And having spent a lot of time on the trails out in Sham, I now know the race really well. And I think all of that plays a role in success as well, in how prepared you are. But also, I guess I feel a little bit like a local here. So it felt cool to be able to race on home turf, now living in Sham or just outside the valley. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to think back at me 3 years ago, who dreamt of winning this race, or even just a top 10 in my mind at that stage it would have been a crazy achievement. So to actually have won it, I still sometimes don't really understand or believe that it happened.
Reflect on the race execution, because for those of us who watched it, it was a super impressive performance. From memory, I think it was you and Mao Yao, the great Chinese athlete, who were sort of duking it out at the front. And then again, from memory, I think there was some beautiful drone shot of you cresting over the Bovine, finally solidly in first place yourself. What was going through your head there as somebody who very much is taking advantage of an opportunity to have a personal breakthrough on the world's biggest stage?
I think because of my preparation in the season, and it hadn't been perfect. I had maybe a month of proper running training leading into the race. I had really removed all expectations. So when I found myself in that front pack and actually feeling really good, I kind of just fed off of that. I'm feeling good, just roll with it, because, at any point this could all fall apart. And, you didn't come in here with the expectation of winning it or even coming on the podium. So you've got nothing to lose. And I think that mentality and that ability to just run free of expectation and pressure, or not free of it, but just with less of it, it allowed me to actually just feel, just feel my body. It sounds weird. It sounds really weird, but just really get in tune with how I'm feeling. And I felt really good. The first climb up to Champex-Lac, I was just behind Ali, and I know she's an insane uphill runner. So in my head, I was like, oh, am I going too hard? I don't know, but I felt really good. So I just went with it. And then, myself and Jen Lichter were just behind her at that stage and passed her heading up Bovine. And then Miao Yao came thundering past us. And I only passed her on the climb up to Col de Balme, so the second major climb of the race.
Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, at no point did I feel like I was overstretching. I felt really comfortable the whole race. And yeah, I don't know. It was one of those magic days where everything kind of just clicks, and I have no idea how I will ever replicate that ever again.
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be satisfied and celebrate an incredible breakthrough. And then, hope that at some point you can replicate it and not assume that that's going to be the norm going forward. But I think one of the things that the listeners would love to hear, winning a race like that, I'm sure it brings you into the consciousness of thousands of new people around the world. If there's anything you can share about how your life or how your career maybe changed by winning a UTMB World Series major, I think that would be an interesting thing to hear.
Can I say didn't really?
Yes. Yeah.
To be fair, I mean, I guess I was removed from a lot of the hype back in Cape Town and back at home. The community in Cape Town have been so psyched for me. I think they've been more excited about this win than I was. So being removed from that and actually only going back to Cape Town recently in November, I was kind of struck with the full force of how psyched people were. And I would get people like walking up to me on the street being like, hey, like, I've just started running and I saw you do OCC and that was super inspiring. And like that for me was really, really cool. Just to see like how far reaching something like this, that my race has been, and like how many lives it's touched and how many people it's inspired. And that's really cool. Like at the end of the day, to inspire someone to go out and like run 5Ks on the promenade because they've seen me do something has been like, that's been cool.
What a gift. What a gift.
Yeah.
Coming back to something you just said, you said at my distance, referencing roughly the 50K distance. And I think that's maybe illustrative of the way younger athletes are thinking about the sport right now. So maybe if there's anything that you want to say about that statement in particular and what you meant by it, and generally how you're thinking about your personal ambitions in the short and long term.
I feel like there's this narrative within the trail running world that once you've achieved a certain level of performance results, some sort of achievement in a specific distance, that you kind of have to step up and like become now a 100K runner. Or once you achieve something in the 100K, you have to step up to 100 miles. And like for me, I really enjoy the 50K distance. I think it's an exciting, it's a distance that you're racing still. You have to have skill in the uphill, the downhill. You have to be fast. You have to be able to run technical. Like there's so many, and not to say that you don't have to have these things in the 100K and the 100 mile as well, but I think it's just a more condensed, intense version of that. And I really enjoy that. I think 6 hours on the mountain racing hard is enough.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I don't see myself stepping up to 100K within the next couple of years. I'm really happy to keep racing the 50Ks, hopefully keep getting better, keep chasing that unicorn race again. And who knows, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 2 years, I want to do something different in a longer race. But right now, I'm happy with 50K. And yeah, I feel like there's room to become a specialist in a distance.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's really done that in the 50K. Courtney's obviously a 100-mile specialist. There's people like who have specialized in the 100K, but no one's really done that in the 50K yet. And I think there's space for hopefully me or anyone.
Yeah. It is really fascinating, that dichotomy between generalism and specialization in the sport right now, with people like Courtney specializing in the long stuff. And then obviously we have like Andrea Meyer, who specializes just in the verticals. And then like individuals like yourself who are sort of triangulating more towards the mid distance. And it's a fascinating time. And obviously there's a lot of great opportunities. So it's just about listening to what motivates you. Speaking of which, maybe you could just expand on what you're just talking about now. What is motivating you as we end 2023, and what are you looking to target in 2024, if you care to share?
Oh, wow. Honestly, I'm so confused right now. There's so many races that I would love to do. One thing that I am very excited about, though, is potentially coming over to the US and maybe dabbling in Broken Arrow.
Yes.
And then coming over and supporting Western States as well afterwards. I've got some pacing and crewing duties that I would love to do for teammates who are running. So yeah, that's the only plan that I've kind of sort of solidified right now.
Well, that's a great plan. If I could provide a sales pitch, yes, it's the best 2 weeks in the North American trail running calendar. And I would love to do the color commentary watching Toni McCann race on North American soil, as I have for Broken Arrow the last couple of years with our good friend Corinne Malcolm, who we just mentioned. Toni, I'm
Yeah.
ending all these interviews with a standard question, and that is just to ask you to give a shout out to an individual who exists behind the scenes, who doesn't get enough kudos, but who was instrumental to your success in 2023.
My partner, Bastian Perez, he's been my biggest cheerleader when I truly didn't think I would be able to, get to any start lines this season. And he's put structure in place that has focused me, but also allowed me to play and explore. And he's given me confidence to go and do things that I didn't think I'd be able to do. So, having someone who's supportive like that has been really, really good for me.
Good. Well, Toni, it's great to meet you. Congratulations on an awesome season. Can't wait to watch what you do in 2024, and we'll hopefully see you in California in June.
Fingers crossed. Thank you so much. And thanks for putting this all together. It's really cool for me to be here is wild. But yeah, appreciate all the effort that you do for us and the trail community.
Yeah. And for our listeners, the long form pod with Toni is going to come soon. So this is just the Trail Runner of the Year. Appreciate your time, Toni.
Thank you so much.